Thank you so much, Alex Ahumuza, for bringing us to speed with that news. Still on Morning at NTV, we continue on with the conversations of the day. Ministry of Health having launched an egg powder initiative to combat child stunting in areas with high prevalency rates. Now, the program distributes a sachet of egg powder per day, and they'll be doing this for 6 months to children aged 6 to 23 months in selected districts, starting with Kamwenge, which has the highest stunting rate. We are definitely talking about powdered nutrition in Uganda and what its status and what is its promise to the future and the nutrition of our children. Daniel Kamara is joining us. He's a nutritionist, so he's the best person to have this conversation with. Good morning to you, Daniel.
Good morning, Priscilla.
And how is your nutrition?
Nutrition.
You know, when you go to the doctor, he's always telling, how are you, what is wrong? But no, I've never seen somebody asking the doctor, how are you, what is wrong? So yes, how is your nutrition?
That's what we've been telling people, that nutrition consultation is like others. So you should not actually always wait to be sick to seek consultation. Rather, you should always opt to go and see a nutritionist. We've been always telling people that nutrition is an independent variable. All the time, do not wait to first fall sick. So when you talk about the egg sachets and the launch, is that it's going to run for 6 months in the said places, but it's going to be scaled out in the long run after the 6 months.
Okay, so before we get into the details of that, we want to first understand what problems are trying to be addressed here. Of course, there's been stunting and underweight over children, but where does it stem from? Because you're talking about a country and regions or areas that are actually food rich.
That's very, very important. Now, you have to know that malnutrition does not actually come there and then, but it can stem from different factors. One can be food insecurity. And food insecurity does not mean that actually you do not have food, because food insecurity has almost all four pillars. If food is available, is it accessible? If it's accessible, is it utilized? If it's utilized, is it sustainable or stability? So you find actually most Ugandans are eating in the season, and out of season, they are not able actually to find food. So when it is even accessible physically, financially, you know, the economy has gone down. So we've been telling people that economy is not very fair, even to your side sometimes. And food insecurity actually is defined as when you fail actually to access what you wanted to eat that very day. But of course, we have the total food insecurity but what you should know is that food insecurity is one of the reasons that we have malnutrition. And stunting, 26%, but we have moved some good strides before, and now the stunting is the one that's the dangerous form of malnutrition, but wasting is the most dangerous, and for it can kill you there and then. But stunting, a person can actually be there while he's stunted and actually can live.
You know, we're glad we're having this conversation on stunting, because the other day I was like, why is it that we have suddenly a generation of children that are very short? Yet we're having a country of many tribes and structures, but the children all seem to be, you know, on one ruler line.
So stunting, it's when actually it's an indicator for height for age, when your age does not correlate with your height. But that does not mean, you know, different tribes, different ethnicity have their different weights, heights, and the age category groups. So, but you know, forms of undernutrition, stunting is the most sung out, but wasting, it's the most dangerous, just like I've said. And wasting is the weight for height. When your height and your weight do not correlate together, you find you are arrested. You've seen the people who have the backbone is thin. You can actually count. You see, yes, you can see the sunken eyes. You can see they are totally very, very wasted. Even the muscles are depleted. And of course, this means that they do not even have the fat reserves. So another one is undernutrition. Yes, the undernutrition. So you find that the underweight, sorry, I was looking for the underweight. You find the underweight is actually when your weight does not tally with your age. So you find actually now, you find a child of 1 year is actually having maybe, for example, a weight of 6 kilograms.
Oh, wow.
That's dangerous. And we've seen these children. If you visited like the Mwanamjimu nutrition unit, you would now see how undernutrition is very serious. And actually, On the other side, the non-communicable diseases are increasing. We've all seen that now the type 5 diabetes takes the advantage of the persons who were malnourished before.
Okay.
So the type 5 diabetes now, for it, it's one of the most now new type of diabetes that we have on the
young
market.
children.
Yes, even it can progress in the near future because for it, you see, it is not insulin resistant, but it is due to it is actually severe insulin deficiency.
Oh wow, which all comes down to the kind of diets that we're having from childhood.
But remember also, the malnutrition in Uganda can stem from not attended to preconception care.
Okay.
Most people here in Uganda get pregnancy by mistake. You only realize that you are pregnant
when you've missed your period.
When you've missed your period. Even you say, maybe I used some contraceptive before, so it might be some hormone interruption. You reach in the hospital, they tell it is 3 months. When we did a study in southwestern Uganda, we found out that actually 80% of women do not plan to be pregnant. It is usually by accident, and all that affects the whole childhood process. So you find if you've not prepared enough, that means you do not have enough money, you do not have enough food. So because in the preparation, we anticipate you prepare as a whole individual. If you're planning to be single but you want a child, you are planning as a whole individual. If you are a couple, similarly, and you know preconception care cannot only be for a man or for a woman, but can be for a couple unless you want to be a single person.
Okay, all right. So for the case of Kamwenge district, what are the underlying issues that are leading our children in that area to actually have malnutrition?
For that region, we have many regions that are leading different types of malnutrition according to EDHS 2022. Okay. So for Toro sub-region, just like, you know, the causes of malnutrition are multifactorial, and just like I said that one is food insecurity, it's where most of the things come through. Even when food is available, but it's not being utilized very well. You find actually when you talk about the egg consumption, even before we go there, you find that if you are consuming an egg, that means you're preventing yourself. But you find if a household actually produces 20 eggs in a month, they are selling off 19, and you find they're having 1, because it's where they get maybe fees from, it's where they get scholastic materials from. So when food is available, there's the issue of utilization. You find actually that place has a lot of food, but you find maybe if you did a survey in 10 homes, you find 9 sell off most of the things that they have. So that actually leaves a dilemma for malnutrition to take place.
Okay. All right. So getting into the nitty-gritties, this powder nutrition, it's sort of a foreign concept, really, especially for the regions that you have talked about. It begs the question, how significant is this approach in improving the nutrition of children?
This is not a new approach, actually, because it has been used before in humanitarian settings. You've all seen most of the branded corn soy, and some of these have been given to us by UN agencies, and they have been used in humanitarian settings for a long time. So this is not a new concept, but rather most of Ugandans actually in refugee settlements have seen most of these packaged food products. So this egg powder, it's not new. It's not new, and most Ugandans know it, have used it before. So it is new, but it is very sustainable for a short period of time, for the time of implementation. But the overall is to create awareness on the egg consumption. Okay, yes. So let's talk about egg consumption, because I know if the project is running for 6 months, there will be a demand or the question of continuity and sustainability to this program to ensure that there's holistic nutrition or improvement of nutrition using powder nutrition across the bar. And so how does the ministry and stakeholders look into sustaining this? Number one is that before, of course, sustainability lies on 3 pillars. You all know that if something is community-based, that means it's sustainable. And the communities are being empowered to ensure that they take up this project, but also start rearing chicken. We've been actually, when a child presents with malnutrition, ask the mother oftenly, do you rear a chicken at home? Do you have some hens at home? And when they say no, you know, this is number one. where to start from. So we do not only actually give the nutrition management, but rather want to go into the social family history background and see what you're doing in agriculture and whatsoever, and ask you which crops actually are available at your household level. What do you grow? So the sustainability relies on the community as an epicenter, and of course from there it's where the egg project comes through. So the sustainability is assured when the community takes up the initiative positively without relying on the government entirely for the egg circuits. Even when the egg circuits are done, what shall we do? It can be a very good, a good question. And you see the Ugandans, when you show them something, they may actually want to entirely look up for it, and may actually leave their side of participation. And of which now, when we say that a community that is empowered, we want to tell Ugandans that the government itself cannot sustain, for example, giving these egg circuits even after 6 months. So we would want to encourage people to rear hens, and the chicken at the household level, so that they can freely get these eggs. And do not sell all the eggs. Do not take the eggs to churches, to whatsoever. Make sure you eat them. If you were growing up, Priscilla, I think you, sometimes when you eat an egg, you put it in the bins when your parents are not around. And maybe some of your young siblings may even report you. I remember, and I'm the last born at home, and they used it actually to tell me before they cooked some eggs, because they know if they did so, remember the eggs are being kept for some specific function or purpose, and now you eat them, that would be so dangerous.
The functionality by one.
Yes, so sustainability is community empowerment, but also looking at how individuals uptake this project.
Okay, so not all regions are capable of actually getting into the farming side of it, rearing the chickens for various social aspects. There could be in areas where there's wild animals, they'll come and clear the chicken here and there. But what else can be done to boost household animal protein intake?
Wow, that's a very amazing question, Madam Priscilla. So one of the most ways is actually agriculture. Not only actually rearing animals is the only way to get your proteins, but we have nutrient-dense foods that have proteins. Madam Priscilla, you know them very well. And of course we have fish. We've always talked about the silver sardines, mukene. We often use different languages because other people have bad perception towards mukene. But that's mukene. We've always talked about mukene. And we've always encouraged people how to cook it very well. You know, most people want to fry it even without washing. Most people, nutrients are easily depleted by different handling methods.
Okay, so how do we handle mukene? Let's first stay there on the part of mukene. How do you cook it?
Actually, for example, if you want to put it, for example, in guineas, right? The guineas are ready. You cook guineas and feel they are ready. So what you do is that you wash mukene under lukewarm water, and then you put it inside. If it is not lukewarm water, you have the cold water, you wash it gently, make sure you do not squeeze it. And when you squeeze it a lot, you find you have left, you find the water is a bit glittery. That means that the fat has actually left, the nutrients being lost. So you put it in gnat paste, and now you cook it for 5-10 minutes and remove and serve. Most people want to cook it for more than 30 minutes. You find actually you have lost the nutrient. You are taking mukene every day, but you're not meeting the nutrients. Okay. Also encourage at least animal protein intake at a household level. When you have children below 5 years, at least 3 times a week. Animal proteins. Then for plant proteins, they can be every day if you intend to do so. But make sure that your children are meeting the dietary requirements. And whereas we see that obesity in children here in Kampala has increased for the last 5 years, we wouldn't want to see the undernutrition increasing in the rural areas, just like the statistics say. So we would want to change this very important narrative into the reality. Okay,
all right. So we are looking at progress that is being made, and we are hopeful that after 6 months you can have continuity of this part of nutrition to ensure that children in the particular regions you've talked about, their nutrition is improved. But how shall we measure improvement in nutrition?
Wow. So nutrition has indicators that can tell if a community is well nourished. And of course, when a community is well nourished, the disease prevalence is down. So most of the diseases are usually common in a place when actually the nutrition status is low. You all have seen that hypertension has increased, for example, and different regions are contributing a high percentage. For example, you see Kampala is contributing a high percentage, followed by Western Uganda, then Eastern, then Northern. So that means that if the community observed health eating, the statistics will tell us in the long run. But the nutrition indicators are very dependent on the medical disease prevalence.
Okay.
So when the disease prevalence is low, that means the community has observed nutrition. I would also want to use an example of when the community is fully nourished, the hospital tendencies are low, especially for children below 5 years. The diarrhea, the helminthes, or the worms. You know, even there's a tendency, one underlying cause of malnutrition is also not deworming children. You know, these worms take the advantage to compete for the nutrients from the gut system. So you find actually these children are getting malnourished there and then. So that's how we measure the progress of nutrition status. But also, research is being done rigorously here in Uganda now. We want to appreciate the scientists and whatever they are doing to improve the nutrition indicators, and also communicating to us and disseminating this all the time.
All right. I also see the program is focusing on the 6 months to 23 months for the children. But then after on the 24th month and above, what are the other alternatives or remedies to ensure that also their nutrition is well attended to?
You know, and actually want to tell the people that this is a complementary feed. It's not a mixed feeding. You know, mixed feeding is when you give children food before 6 months. And complementary, it's when you begin from 6 months. That is recommended. So, you know, that's the target window for malnutrition. That's when the child is trying to adapt to the family food. And that's when most children are presenting with diarrhea always on the wards. That's when actually they don't have appetite. And the mother will present this child to you if you're working, for example, in a rural area. This child will present on your department with failure to eat or appetite for almost 6 months. This child will not add any kilogram because that's the crawling stage. It is one of the most disturbing period. So it's a window period for malnutrition. That's what they are targeting. So being a window for malnutrition, it's a call to mothers to ensure that they be careful. They take food handling procedures very serious. You know, the handling procedures before you feed the child, what should you do? Wash hands properly. Make sure the children praise, at least in a neat environment. Make sure that you take care of what the child puts in the mouth. And all that relies in the child's environment. So eating health, the complementary feeds often want to invite the public to always learn. We have these mom guidelines, and even in the last pages, we have the foods we teach these mothers. We normally tell them that the foods that you have at the household, make sure we make a chitobero. We've always taught mothers how to make a chitobero. For example, you make high energy porridge. For example, you find you're making millet porridge. Millet porridge, for example, after you add in an egg, after you add in some yellow bananas, you smash and put, and even you put some G-nut paste, you find you're making the whole energy wholesome. That even when a child ate 2 spoons, you are assured the child has met the what? The dietary requirements and all the nutrients required by the baby. So you find that all this stems from education practices, and for us to manage this, we have to use a multidisciplinary approach, Madam Priscilla. We cannot do it alone, I cannot do it alone, but rather as a team. When the child presents to your ward 3 times with failure to eat, you send them to a nutritionist. They have maybe better remedies for them, and they can support them on eating healthy.
Okay. All right. So according to the 2022 Uganda Demographic and Health Survey, 20% of children under 5 are stunted, meaning that they're shorter than their age due to chronic malnutrition, something that we talked about. But that figure has increased over the course of the time since then. And yet I know that there's in good intentions to make sure that there's reduction of stunting of children in Uganda. by 12.5% come 2030.
Yes.
We have 5 years to go.
Goal.
Our current rate stands at 0.9%. That means that if we are to work within the 5 years, we have to increase it, push it up a bit by about 5.3%. How are we going to be able to achieve that?
Thank you so much. And I am so happy, Madam Priscilla, that the country is working very, very hard. And we have a division for nutrition department at the MOH. They are doing a very amazing work, led by Madam Samari. They are doing an amazing work. They are supporting research, and we are able to get this research disseminations as early as enough. And we are sure that by 2030, at least we shall have moved strides. If you saw actually our Uganda demographic health survey for the undernutrition, you will appreciate that actually they have reduced somehow. You know, reducing malnutrition is actually, just like I said, it's multifactorial. It's a very, very big, do you know that the healing rate for malnutrition, a child is admitted for 2 to 4 weeks on ward. For example, a child who presents with severe maybe wasting, you find is being put on stabilization, formula milk 75. It is taken to 100. It's taken to rehabilitation of RITF, these circuits, food again. So you find that the process takes longer than actually expect. Therefore, recovering from malnutrition as a nation or as individuals and households, it takes more time, patience, and we are certain that if we get more energy from other MDs and from other actually people, we shall be able to fight this in a collaborative approach. But also, this media, what we are doing here, is also very important to create awareness of this. And individuals take control of their eating behaviors and what actually they are putting in their mouth. Just like often tell the public that the more non-communicable diseases are increasing, it's the more the undernutrition is being underlooked. You know, the saying that we cannot wait for you to develop is very bad, you understand? Because you are going to be down as another person is going up very fast. Now, my question still lies, who will lose and who will win this? You find now we need a win-win situation. As we are focusing on the non-communicable diseases, let's also focus on the undernutrition. So the target by the 2030, we are sure that we shall, if we have not hit the target, but we shall be reducing higher levels of malnutrition.
Okay. Are there any health concerns or cultural concerns with the introduction of powdered egg nutrition into the various communities? Are there any challenges that you have faced?
Fortunately, is that they haven't reported any.
Okay.
It is being taken up by communities, and we're happy. You know, when something is acceptable, you know, before you actually even introduce any feed, you have to do community survey at a household level. And when the food is being taken up and when food is accepted, that shows that actually there will be a very, very big uptake of the feed and to actually improve their lives. It all stems from education, awareness, and informing you actually what is right and what's wrong and why is this being done.
All right. And we also would like to know, this is not the only way that we can actually deal with the issue, especially of stunting. What other additional interventions do exist that communities, health workers and health practitioners can actually pick up, adopt, and maybe extend to the communities to ensure proper nutrition of our children?
Wow, thank you so much. We have encouraged the public to do what we call dietary diversity. Dietary diversity is the availability of different foods at a household level. We've encouraged the people to ensure that the plate, at least for the children, has more proteins than carbohydrates and vegetables. Make sure you mix all these foods all the time. There are some mothers who will tell you that my child does not want to eat dodo. That's wrong. Because the child should eat dodo. It's necessary. You know what you do now? Mix it in the beans, smash it up, and feed the baby. The baby will eat dodo, and they will not actually be aware that they're eating dodo. The next is local food fortification. So this is the addition of ingredients that have different nutrient levels into food. And we've taught these mothers, most of the times, when you are teaching about how to mix the high energy porridge, the chitobero or food, you find for example, we mix peanuts plus some meat, you understand? Or maybe beans, meat, then again dodo, some Irish potato, and some rice. You find we are always making the combination. That's the local food fortification. If you are able to do it at a higher level, if you can have maybe rice flour and you mix maybe soya flour and you are mixing all those, you can do it, but it is very expensive. But at a household level, for example, in Kanungu district here I'm born from, you are able to make sure that you mix the foods that are locally available, and you do a local fortification. So local fortification encourages people to use their available foods to meet the dietary requirements. Another way is that we've empowered health workers at all levels with nutrition information to make sure that these people are able to know what to do and where to do it from. Some actually places have cooking stations. Most of the hospitals now have adapted cooking stations, and these cooking stations maybe happen different days of the week. For example, at Bwindi Community Hospital where I work, we cook every Thursday. Every Thursday we cook, and we teach mothers how best to ensure they're eating healthy. These cooking sessions are usually for free of attendance, and find out that we incorporate all mothers. Even we call people in the waiting hostel who are pregnant, because we want to teach them that complementary feeding starts with you, and you must learn these things all the time. So those are some of the ways in which we've empowered the public, and how we are continuing to empower the public on how to observe better nutrition.
Right. Daniel, you've definitely given us a lot of education and a lot to think about, especially for our children, because even with the areas that have a high prevalence of stunting and all, but even in urban areas, I'm sure that there's some elements that are underdressed. Let's talk about those.
Just like I told you that when overnutrition is increasing in town, now undernutrition tends to not to shout a lot. And I said, which is wrong. It should be 50-50. When other counterparts are working on overnutrition here, other counterparts should be working on the undernutrition. So we have other areas in the city, actually, in the same urban, that are battling with undernutrition, and especially in the, I may not say in the slum, but in those places that people are not able to meet their dietary requirements. We've also seen
highly congested areas.
Yes. We've also seen some adults who are malnourished, actually, even here in the city. So this stems actually when your energy intake is less than the energy expenditure. And of course, this affects your overall performance. Right. So the malnutrition in the city for the children, I have seen the Department of Management is full. So we would want to encourage the public that if you see a child misbehaving, they are not adding weight, actually. Failure to thrive, they're not adding weight. The feeding appetite has been poor for the last 6 months. And you are concerned about the hair, the hair is very, and the eyes, the tongue is always coated. Please visit your nearest health facility or come to the National Referral Hospital for concerns and to be attended to. It's very important. And for malnutrition in Kampala or same urban, most of these children actually are not attended to. True. Because most of the
chips, chicken,
non-government organizations,
as long as you're feeding them, parents tend to ignore her. And it's something that, interestingly, I started the program with telling people that, you see, it's not just about eating food constantly, hot things constantly. Try yourself, challenge yourself to have, a basket of fruit for breakfast this morning. And because people are thinking they only eat fruits actually when they're going for buffets at functions. Anyway, Daniel, let's close this with your parting shots and your call to action.
Thank you so much, Madam Priscilla. I'm so happy, and I'm happy that we're speaking about nutrition. So nutrition, I want to emphasize that eating really depends on food that's available, but eating healthy has no option. Ensure that in all available means you are eating healthy. And eating healthy, I want to emphasize that when food is over-advertised, that means the food is not healthy. Health foods do not entice you to eat them, but rather you make a decision by yourself. So I've never seen an advert running for matoke and dodo and skuma wiki, but rather advertised than health ones.
Very true.
run for non-advertised foods, and stay healthy. For rural communities, make sure that you plant crops. Let's not rely on the markets, because our incomes are really going down every day as people. So we need to invest in the local agriculture and the household agriculture levels and incomes. I want to thank you.
Just one last one. No, let me leave that. I was going to ask the nutritional value of pork, but we'll talk about that off air. I will take a short breather, because I know that opens up a can of worms. We'll take a short breather. We'll return with more conversations on Morning at NTV. Please stay with us.